Yeah. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Remember to like and subscribe. Smash that like button to help us with the algorithm. That really helps. Today I'm going to be presenting to my good friend Ian and to my good friends watching this video as well, all of you guys, the follow-on presentation of my first one, which was about soulology, which is my rebranding of psychology, bringing the soul and aspect of spirit into psychology and simplifying what was what is very complicated and complex for most people, the idea of psychology, and simplifying that, bringing the soul back into it. Just to remind you guys and yourself, Ian, of that, the three elements of that are duality. So you've got like a man and a woman, that's duality, that's the reality we live in and we experience. And then polarity, which is the polarization of energies. So man is good, which means woman is bad. Yeah, that's the polarization of it. And the third aspect of it was balancing and healing. So that's the bit I'm going to be focusing on here. So how can we actually begin to balance our own individual energy fields to become more at peace and to ultimately know the peace that we are. So without further ado, I'll share my screen and start. So this is balancing work, also known in some circles as shadow work. Okay, shadow work, balancing work. I use the terms balancing work and healing. So, important message before we start. So, the goal of Soulology is to simplify psychology, to make the healing process easy to understand and to digest, right? So, this simplification and matter of factness of this presentation I'm about to give does not by any means seek to undermine or underestimate or understate rather the experiences people have gone through. All right, life is serious and serious shit happens. With that said, here's Michael Jackson. You don't have to do this alone, right? Remember, you're not alone with this healing work. Seek help if needed, guys. Okay.
Mm.
So if you are aware or suspect you have experienced some big traumatic events, it is wise to seek a therapist. And heck, even if you think you don't have any major trauma to work through, it's smart to find a therapist or someone who can aid you in the healing whilst you're going through these big life changes and doing the healing work.
So
So,
just
if
just
possible,
just a
get
question
someone.
there, Patrick.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you mentioned obviously if people are going through that to seek a therapist, but if they don't have any tr major trauma work or they don't have anything coming up, how do they know or why should they go and see a therapist if they don't think anything's wrong at the time?
Well, if they don't, they shouldn't. If you feel like you can do this stuff by yourself, then by all means do. But
Mm,
the chances are, if someone's watching a presentation on healing, they know that they need it.
mm, yeah.
Do you know? But it's a fair question. It's a fair question. I just wanted to put this at the start of the
Mm,
presentation, be like, okay, I'm going to give you ways you can start becoming aware and start healing yourself, by yourself.
yeah.
But you don't have to do this alone. Like you know
Mm,
yourself, you've not done the healing work all by yourself.
mm,
I certainly haven't. I still work with a therapist and mentor that I have, which has been super, super beneficial. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
yeah.
So the goal then of this presentation is to introduce you to some of the healing modalities which you can use to balance your own individual energy field and feel more at peace. Ultimately, by doing this a lot, you'll start to know yourself to be that peace that you feel that you want.
Mm,
But that's like it's further down the road, but that's where you're headed. So it's good. So we'll look at what is going on during the healing process, why we suffer, how to become conscious of energy in the body, and of course, how to heal. So healing is balancing, is depolarizing, right? So I'll be using these three terms synonymously throughout the presentation, depending on the context. For example, when I talk about the inner child, it's better to use the healing. The two terms kind of fit better together, right? You wouldn't
mm,
have like inner child and then talk about uh, depolarizing.
Yeah.
Heal is a better word that goes with inner child, right? But ultimately, when you see them, it's the same thing. So we'll be looking into these three main areas, okay? The energy body, triggers and defense mechanisms, and healing methods, of course. So first is the energy body. In our current culture, to say we are not in touch with our feelings would be a massive understatement. We are taught to repress unwanted emotions and dissociate from our bodies, distract ourselves from our emotions. Drinking, eating, smoking, playing PlayStation. Most of us aren't even aware of the concept of having an energy body, let alone being in touch with it. So we are much more than our thinking mind. Anyone who has meditated or done yoga or similar spiritual practices will be aware that they are more than their thinking mind. And even if they haven't fully integrated it on some level, they will be aware of this deeper dimension of their being. So what is the energy body then? Have a feel into it right now. So the energy body is beyond the thinking mind. And therefore it can't be talked about. It can only be felt. So let's feel into it right now. So you can begin to sense and feel the energy body by bringing your attention away from the mind and into the body. So this is also known as a body scan type of meditation. We won't do a full meditation, but just try and check in with yourself right now. So if you just put your attention on your feet, so just put your attention on your feet, on your toes, you may start to feel a slight little tingling sensation. And now just move your attention up to your knees and now into your stomach and into your chest, your elbows, your fingers, back down to your toes, to your knees. And so these like slight tingling sensation you might start to feel. I certainly feel it a lot more in my fingers and toes. But also the more you kind of just keep your attention on it, you can start to feel it in your knees as well, your elbows. Start to feel this slight tingling sensation. Okay. Congratulations, you're now aware of your energy body. All right. That is the energy body. So this is an Eckhart Tolle quote. The remnants of pain left behind by every strong negative emotion that is not fully faced, accepted, and then let go of, join together to form an energy field that lives in the very cells of your body. So he refers to this as the pain body. I don't know if you've heard that term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he calls it, pain body. Okay. So we're going to be looking at triggers first of all. We all know what it feels like to be triggered. Simply put, it's when someone says or does something we don't like and we get a negative reaction from it. The Cambridge Dictionary defines triggered as experiencing a strong emotional reaction of fear, shock, anger, or worry, especially because you are made to remember something bad that has happened in the past. That's how they define being triggered as. So it's an energetic response that happens in the body. And often this feeling is so uncomfortable, so unbearable to just be with that we project this pain out onto the world via the mind. Yeah, could be onto other people in our lives, onto past things, past events that come up that relate to it, or the future. The point is, the mind projects this pain. Okay, so how can a triggering play out? Here's a little example. A triggering might play out like this. So an energetic wound is the first bit. So you might get like a feeling of guilt. Yeah. So a lot of times I feel guilt. I feel like in the pit of my stomach, like like it's almost like putting a little dagger in there and just twisting it like, ugh. So the belief that's generated from this energetic wound is, I'm stupid for doing that. Yeah. You might get that thought. And this is not something people are necessarily aware of. This is an unconscious thing, right? I'm stupid for doing that. Why did I do that? And because they're not aware of it, this belief then gets projected out onto others in the world. And they might say to people, "You're so stupid. Why do you always do dumb shit?" You know, they're actually reacting from that wounded place.
Mm.
And they're projecting. This is what we mean when we say projection. The ego is projecting, the separate self is projecting out onto apparent others. So this judging or projecting onto another is simply part of the wounded self's defense mechanism, which was very needed in the past to keep us safe. Okay. Remember, this was a defense mechanism. This is why we have it. So the issue now is that we are energetically defending a threat which is no longer there. Okay. So what was a snake is now just a rope, but we're still acting as if it was a snake, which is why we get these strong emotional reactions. The perceiving of a danger that is no longer there manifests as us projecting our pain onto others. Yeah, here's a nice little graphic I found online. So I don't want to admit it, but I'm bitter. Yeah. So the client might have thoughts of my therapist is very bitter. Yeah. So it's projecting that onto the therapist, saying they're the one that's bitter. You always do this. Why would you always do that? A lot of the times we see it with people in our lives, don't we? We realize we're like, hang on, it's the pot calling the kettle black, you know? Like they're literally saying all the things that the negative traits about someone else that they clearly show themselves. Yeah. And this is coming from a repressed part of them. So these are our defense mechanisms. I really like this image. Have you seen this one before?
I haven't, no, but it's good. I like that.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's good.
Hmm.
See the kind of disgruntled face. Take that mask off. The real anger. What's beneath the anger? It's the sadness, do you know? What's beneath the sadness?
Looks like King Charles, that sadness.
Mhm.
Ooh. Moving on.
Anyway, so the reason for the defense mechanisms, yeah, I can't go into the royal families like defense mechanisms. That's above my pay grade. That is. Oh my God, I ain't qualified enough for that. So the reason for a defense mechanism, yeah, during a traumatic event, when the emotional pain gets too much to process, the mind creates a story in order to protect itself. It is a fantastic mechanism, yeah, that the brain employs in order to survive situations it perceives as dangerous. Our mind's defenses are great during a traumatic event, not so great 20 years down the line, right? I don't know if you're a football fan, Ian, but I've enjoyed making this little graphic here. So 20 years ago, yeah, this was a great defense. This AC Milan team, great defense. It was needed and valued to keep the team safe. Yeah, that's what the defense does. Awesome defense 20 years ago. 20 years on, it's not so useful, right? Yeah. 20 years on, the defense mechanisms, they're still there, they're still going, they're still playing, you know. How useful is that defense?
Mm,
Not really, more of a hindrance than a help. So after a certain amount of time, the loving thing to do is to let our defense hang up their boots, retire. So when we are no longer in danger, our defense mechanisms can still be operational to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Rationally, we know that the danger isn't there anymore, but our body and mind are still telling the same story from 20 years ago. Clients will often say, like, I know I'm okay, I know I'm safe, but I can't help having these feelings of fear or like thinking that something bad can happen or having to go to check if the door's been locked like 20 times.
mm,
You know, that's an unconscious process that's happening. Rationally, they might be able to understand it, but you got to go deeper to start to heal the energy of it, because that is what I'm going to show.
yeah.
So, what can our defense mechanisms look like, right? So, on one end of the spectrum, this could look like someone silently judging another person for driving too slow. You know, you're just there driving, you're like, driving so slow. That's one end of the spectrum. On the other one, could look like getting out the car and being physically or verbally abusive to that person, shouting at them or whatnot. Yeah, these are both defense mechanisms. Depending on how polarized that energy is,
Mm,
this is obviously strong polarization, right? So trauma responses are the defense mechanisms which use the mind, sorry, they use the mind to project out the emotional pain to others. So in terms of energy, we can see the wounded energy as unbalanced energy. So how energies get polarized then? So during the traumatic event or throughout our childhood, unconsciously or consciously, we learn that certain emotions are good, certain emotions are bad. Yeah. We all know which they are because we've all been conditioned in the same way. Happy is good. How are you doing? Oh, I'm happy. Great, fantastic. Oh, amazing. How are you doing? Oh, I'm sad. oh no, you're sad? That's terrible. You know,
Mm,
emotions just are. So, for example, maybe growing up, it was very taboo for you to feel sad. This is obviously a very simplified caricature, and the processes are very deep because you've kind of got like where you are in the family, there's certain roles you have to play, little or big traumatic events that happen that affect the way that you are. But essentially, shut your ass up and quit crying, boy. Yeah. So this boy has learned sadness. Okay. So this polarizes the sadness to mean badness. So now, whenever this boy feels sad, instead of feeling the sadness and just going feeling it, letting it come up and out, they repress it. No, 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 can't do that. So this repression, it does nothing but polarize the energy more, which then ends up being a very sensitive trigger for us. So this is how trauma is passed down to the next generation. It's a very unconscious process, and unconscious is the key word to remember with this. When you're going through and learning about healing and going through your own healing journey, remember it's unconscious. You know, no one is to blame. It just is, and we're just becoming aware of these things. So you've probably seen this one, Ian, have you?
ah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a classic. See, like
Mm,
the grandpa, you're stupid, which gets passed down to you're not good enough, and then this guy is symbolizing uh blocking it, but actually what he's doing, he's integrated that and he's depolarized.
mm,
So that depolarized energy allows the energy to go up and raise. And he says to his son, "Yeah, go, good job. No, I'm proud of you, or whatever." And then the next one says, "I love you. I'm proud of you. Great." And the kid just
mm,
becomes creative.
yeah.
Got a quote from the Bible. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Yeah. People who are like suffering and do bad things, very like what we term evil things, like against the nature of reality, of the nature of love.
Mm,
They're doing it from a very unconscious place. It's important to remember for our own healing journey. Um, okay. So when do we know when it's time to heal? So this is what we've talked about at the start of the presentation. And you said, how do people know when to get a therapist or when they want to heal or whatnot? Well, these are some of the telltale signs. So it may manifest as you not wanting to attract a certain partner. You may have broken up with someone and be like, I don't want to meet someone like that again. And then maybe you end up meeting someone like them again. You're like, again? Yeah. Seeing the patterns, becoming sick of the repeating patterns of addiction as well, suffering with anxiety or depression, any mental health, what they call mental health illnesses, not being able to switch off an overactive mind. Yeah. I've not gone into like ADHD in this presentation, but ADHD is just it's a trauma response. It's because there's so much distorted energy in the field that the mind is just trying to find any way to like release it, and it just
mm,
releases it in its projections, and that's why they have so many racing thoughts. I used to experience this, like I had had loads of anxiety, and my thoughts would go 100 miles an hour, and it's probably why one of the reasons I got into learning languages because it was a way to like slow the mind down, right? Because
mm,
it was just going so fast. Um, which obviously can lead to like not sleeping and whatnot. But these are all symptoms of the one problem, right?
mm,
Um, or the one is imbalance. Physical health issues as well that can manifest. I won't go too deeply into that, but the energy body is obviously related to the physical body. And if we kind of repress strong emotions, we have a traumatic event, we repress the emotion, don't process it, let it come up and out,
mm,
we don't integrate it, then it will manifest because the energy has to move. And it will manifest as illnesses, pains, it can range from like feeling like stiff and tight, like we get tight muscles or cancer. Do you know? It's that
mm.
legit and real.
Yeah.
So simply put, we get to the point of wanting to heal when we get fed up of suffering. Yeah. So all of these are the alarm bells that lead us to seek healing, obviously. So balancing and healing. So before I jump into the balancing and healing, we've got to look at what is suffering, plain and simple. So suffering is a combination of an unwanted energy accompanied by an unwanted thought that we experience as mental pain. So energy in the body plus thought equals suffering. Obviously, this could be physical pain as well, but here we're talking about the mental pain, which is the energy in the body combined with a thought. That's suffering. In life, it might play out like this. You got like a heavy energy in your chest that translates to the thought of I'm sad, which then goes to I'm a sad person. It's kind of a cycle, right? I'm a sad person. I'm depressed. So instead of the energy being balanced or addressed or seen or accepted, it goes back round. The energy just it stays there, and even gets over time it gets heavier, you could say. So what you resist persists. The polarization of the energy or emotion. Um, I don't want to feel sad because it's bad. It increases its potensity. It increases its polarity or denseness. So acceptance of what is. We can begin to break the cycle by using the power of acceptance, right? Always starts with acceptance. No one, me and Ian chatted a little bit about this before we started recording, kind of, no, very few beings go from complete self-loathing to complete self-love. It's this bit here of acceptance, key point.
Mm.
So, I hope there are some Star Wars fans watching this one. I've redesigned this famous Yoda quote. So, resistance of fear is the path to the dark side. Resistance of fear leads to anger, and resistance of anger leads to hate. Resistance of hate leads to suffering. Okay.
Mm.
How do we break this then? Acceptance. So, if nothing else, you must accept this. Acceptance is the basis of any and all healing modalities, as
Yeah,
Ian will, I'm sure, agree.
yeah.
The depolarization process starts when we stop judging certain energies and instead welcome them into our awareness. Great. So all I've got to do is accept then. All right, here I go. I'm going to accept this emotion. Let's go. Oh no, I'm still suffering. Oh, I thought it was meant to make the pain go away. I said I accept it. I feel bad. I say I accept you, badness. And I still suffer. What's going on here? Well, let's talk about true acceptance, shall we? Acceptance has no agenda. Yes, has no agenda. You cannot balance energy if you have an agenda too. Now, it's not wrong to want to heal, right? But when you do this balancing or healing work, it must be done from a place of complete acceptance and surrender. This is when people talk about surrender. Even the word surrender's got a bit of polarity to it, right? I certainly experienced this early on in my healing journey. Surrender people. I'd hear people say, just surrender, do you know? And I'd be like, surrender? That's a bad. That's like giving up. Giving up's
Mm.
bad. I wanna, fight. I wanna beat this. And actually, over time, you realize what surrender truly means, which is accept.
Mm.
And even acceptance for a lot of people, they'll hear that and they'll be like, how can I accept feeling terrible? Do you
Mm.
know? Was they just don't quite understand how energy works. So that's what I'm hoping to explain to people, make it a little bit clearer. So yeah, think about a child, right? So if they're sad and crying after dropping an ice cream, you won't console the child just by telling them, "Oh, don't worry about it, it's okay." Yeah, agendarless acceptance. If all you want them to do is to stop crying, so that's your agenda, the child will feel this agenda. They'll feel this energy. If you just want them to shut up, just get over it. It's just an ice cream kind of thing. Doesn't matter about the words you say. They'll feel the energy first. So you have to meet them in their pain and empathizing with them with their sadness. And this energy of okayness is what actually gets felt by the child. Okay, so it's like, okay, you dropped your ice cream. Ah, oh, yeah, you feel that pain. You feel that sadness. And a lot of people are actually good at empathizing with their own children and other children with that. You see, they're sad. You know that they're okay ultimately. So it's a combination of this empathizing deeply with the emotion and also the energy of okayness. It's a combination of those two things.
Mm.
Yeah. Like the famous saying, it's okay to not be okay. That was the start. So it's the same when you work with your own inner child. If you try to rush it, the inner child will feel the insincerity and will just throw up more defenses. All right, we've got to do this, meet the energy on its level. So whilst doing the healing work, we must always try to meet the energy on its level. We come down to its level. Okay. For example, after doing a lot of healing work, we might realize that thoughts are just in fact parts of the defense mechanism. And even though ultimately this is true, we've still got to meet the energy where it's at, not where we are. I don't know if you've had or experienced this, Ian, but like you can have expanded kind of realizations and be like, oh my God, wow, okay, I don't need to feel this way or whatever. I'm good, I'm peace, I'm love. But then another pattern will come up that doesn't feel that, and that pattern is vibrating on this frequency. And even though you've experienced and are aware of a frequency up here, you've got to come down to it and meet it at its level. You can't
Mm.
just be like, "Oh, come on, it's all love, get over it." You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
work. You got
yeah.
to meet it where it's at. um, so it's fruitless to become aware of a thought that's expressing that deep emotional pain, just to palm it off with that thought. Just get over it. You know.
Mm.
So how energies get depolarized and balanced? Depolarization is not running to the other end of the seesaw in order to balance it. It's gently walking towards the middle and
Mm.
standing there. So healing slash reknowing of energy takes time. Yeah, but I want to heal now. Yeah, yeah, we all do, you know, we all want to heal now. But we must also understand that our minds and bodies have been conditioned for years. Now, these defense mechanisms, they've been there for years and years. So they've been conditioned to act a certain way. So therefore, it takes time for us to re-know certain energies. When you begin this work, you will actually realize what a blessing the buffer of time is. You will start to really appreciate it. And also, there's some more good news. Good news, everyone. The good news is, as we've talked about before in the previous presentation, there are infinite ways you can heal or balance energy. As balance is actually the true nature of what we are. Energy always seeks balance. So imagine throwing a stone into a calm body of water. Eventually, the water settles and finds balance. But no matter how much it gets disturbed, it always goes back to that stillness. Our only job is to stop throwing stones, right? That's all we've got to do. Stop throwing those stones in, disturbing that water. Just let it find its balance. So before I share the my favorite healing or balancing modalities, here are the top three tips to become a balancing master. Anyone watching this, you might want to note these down. They're good. Of course, number one is what's acceptance, and the practice noticing that the present moment is already accepting of whatever is. It does not judge one way or another. It welcomes all in whatever state it comes. So when you begin to accept the present moment without judging it, it becomes your friend. Yeah. Number one, acceptance. Number two, not knowing, because we only suffer what we think we know. So begin to get comfortable not knowing. Realize that we are always walking into the unknown. Every moment is different from the last, and it's forever changing. We're always walking into the unknown anyway. When the mind throws up a judgment or a story, simply reply, maybe, I don't know for sure, and that's okay. So
Mm.
we can harness the power of not knowing by utilizing the word maybe. Really, really powerful little technique to throw in when it comes up with something. Oh, things are going to be bad. They're going to do this. They're going to da, 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 da. The mind's going and projecting. You know, maybe. Yeah, you're not giving it resistance by saying uh, everything will be fine because that's how you get into the duality, right?
Mm.
When the mind's saying things are going to be terrible, it's going to be like this, it's going to be bad. You go, no, it's not. It's going to be great. The mind is just going to hit back with the same amount of force.
Yeah,
When it's saying things are going to be bad, da, 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 maybe
yeah.
actually, let me just check right now. Let's just check in with reality right now. Yeah, I'm not denying. Maybe it might happen. The mind might be right. You might be right, mind. Thank you for your wisdom. You might be right, but let's just see what's happening now. Oh, There's an okayness here. There's an acceptance. So I'll just go with not knowing for now. We'll just say maybe. Yeah, we'll just say maybe. Good way of depolarizing. Another one I really like to use um, is holding beliefs lightly in your hands. So whenever you feel a strong judgment or arise about a particular situation or person or whatever, imagine projecting the judgment, like the words, onto your hands and just hold them lightly. Like you don't need to throw away the belief, but you don't need to hold onto it so tightly either. Yeah, this is a really good technique to help put space between you and a thought. Yeah, just projecting that thought, that belief, feeling like the trigger, like and the mind starts going. Yeah, let's just we'll hold it. We'll hold it. We won't throw it away, and we don't need to get into that game of duality. And I don't want this thought. Sure, we'll hold it. We just won't hold on very tight. Just
Mm.
hold it lightly. So here's some of my favorite healing balancing techniques. So obviously, as I previously mentioned, it's there are infinite ways to rebalance. So if any of these don't resonate with you, uh, there are other modalities you can use. Some people respond better to hypnosis, Reiki sessions with Mr. Ian, meditation also with Mr. Ian, hypnosis. You do all those things actually, don't you? I've just
I
listed
do,
all the ones you do.
yeah. And EFT as well. That's another one.
There are loads.
There's
There are so
lots,
many
lots.
amazing techniques you can use. So you've got plenty of tools at your disposal. So if any of these you're like, nah, that doesn't resonate with me, don't throw the baby out of the bathwater. There'll be something that you'll be like, that's the stuff. And when it resonates with you, go for that. So these are my ones. Opopopono, the infamous, well, infamous. It's not bad, but it's super famous. And this is from Hawaii, I believe.
Mm.
I hope it is because that's why I put the Hawaiian girls there. So it's the four mantras you say whilst giving your attention to the energy in the body. Yeah, so you start to connect with it, the energy in your body. You feel the trigger, and you say, "Thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you." These are the mantras. Right? Yes, it is woo woo, but everything is woo woo. So you'll discover this. This is why it works. Everything is energy. So if you've ever seen, I guess you must have seen this one in the rice experiment,
Yeah.
super famous one in it
And the
where you,
water. There's a water one as well.
oh, no spoilers, mate. That's the next
Oh,
slide.
sorry.
Oh, great minds, eh? Yeah, good. You can help explain that one then. So the rice one, just briefly for anyone who's not seen it, you cook. Sometimes you can do three as well, just have a neutral one. Cook some rice up, leave them both. One of them you speak to both, but one of you speak to in a very loving way, and another one a very like hateful way.
Mm.
And these are the results. You can feel free to do these, verify it for yourself, But I've seen loads of. I've not done this
Mm.
experiment, but I've seen so much evidence for it.
Yeah. I think it
Um,
was a
just
Japanese doctor that did that. Well, from the example I saw, he had three types
this
of
one.
rice. No, with the rice, but there was somebody else that did it with the water, and had about four containers, um, and had the same thing. It said, "I love you" to one type of water, said nothing to another type of water, said hateful things to another type of water. So, yeah, and then after they looked at the water under a microscope when it had been frozen, it created all these different sorts of shapes, and the ones that had nasty things said to it had these sort of really, well, like this, really not very nice
Mm,
creations within them.
hmm Yeah, I'd recommend looking this up and the rice experiment. There's loads of people who've done it on YouTube now, but
Mm,
yeah, this one was really quite impactful for me. Although there was a bit of resistance to it, I was kind of, oh, how legit is that or whatnot?
mm,
It's legit and it's yeah very impactful. So yeah, everything is woo woo.
yeah.
The Hopopopono stuff is woo woo, but this is the result of it. And you imagine what percentage water are we? Like 80% or something,
80,
they say.
80%, 85%, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if you're not on board with everything's energy, at least realize you're a lot of water.
Mm,
And this is the effect of speaking to water nicely and sending it love and whatnot, so you can appreciate the effect it has on you.
mm,
So use these Ho'oponopono mantras when you feel some energetic patterns or triggers come up. Yeah, when you get triggered, you can say them out loud or you can say them in your head.
mm,
Next one, sublimation. So sublimation is really good when we're faced with a very strong energy. There's been a lot of like trauma, something we just it's really difficult to just accept and be with. Something, you have this experience that happened to you, the trauma, the energy is there, and someone says to you, accept it. If during the part where I was explaining about acceptance, if you had a lot of resistance to that, you're like, how, what, accept, what are you talking about? The mind was going like this, then you might want to consider using sublimation for certain energies. So to sublimate is to change the form, but not the essence, right? So when the going gets tough, when these big patterns come up, like I mentioned, guys, this is it's no joke. Doing this work is absolutely no joke. There's a reason most people avoid doing this kind of deep inner healing. It is like as incredible and beautiful and as enlightening and wonderful as it is fucking horrible. Like, oh, uh, it's worth it though, because either way you suffer, right? But you may as well suffer with peace at the end of it than more suffering. That's the way I see it. So yeah, sometimes when the mind throws up a lot of resistance, you can't keep your attention on the energy in the body. So if this happens, sublimate. Okay. Just another example in science of what sublimation is. Yeah, you see how the ice is um, changing into water and then it's steam. It's the same
mm,
essence, different form.
yeah.
So, for example, if you've got some strong feelings of disgust, right, that are so strong, each time you give your attention to the disgust, I used to feel disgust a lot in the kind of my solar plexus chakra, like so my stomach area or a little bit below that in the stomach, like really strong, like unbearable. I couldn't be with it.
Yeah.
My mind's projections were just too strong, and I was like, no, no, no. So what I actually did this. So to sublimate this energy, right? I drew out this feeling of disgust as a disgust monster. Okay, so I changed its form, not its essence. The essence was still there, but I changed its form into a disgust monster. So I began to communicate with this monster, which is the energy, asking it questions, uh, and it should say beginning, and beginning to treat it with love. I started to speak to it in a loving way. The
Mm,
energy was still there, and I still felt the energy, and it still feels crap, by the way. But it's bearable. It's
mm,
bearable to have a relationship with a monster that you know you've created. So there's space there, and it
mm,
feels better, safer. But the healing work is still being done because the energy, the essence is the same. So the next time the disgust monster gets triggered, yeah. So the next time I had a thought or something happened that made that feeling of cringe, disgust come, instead of not going with it or not just distracting myself or suffering, I remembered, it's the disgust monster. Oh, there he is. Hello again, my friend. There you are. You can be here with me, yeah? You can be here as long as you want. I know you. I know you. I know your essence. I know your essence. You're not as scary as you make out. And that'll start to morph it and change it. Your
mm.
mind's projection of it might end up like this little cute little gremlin thing in a cup of tea. Yeah. Yeah. You build a relationship with it.
Mm,
So couldn't do sublimation without mentioning the inner child, of course. So the inner child is also a form of sublimation that the mind has basically given us a big head start on, right? Because it's from our memories. But it's still the energy that's sublimated into a thought of us. as a child. Okay. I like this little drawing. Yeah. So this is your inner child, this is you. And it's asking, am I good? Am I loved? Am I safe? Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes when we begin to work with these repressed energies, repressed memories pop up from childhood. And yeah, as I mentioned, so if we're ready to, it can be wise to actually use these memories and communicate with a child version of ourselves that is appearing in the memory. I don't know if you've done this, Ian. I'm guessing you probably have, like of having a memory come up from your childhood.
Mm.
And this is why I mentioned at the start, getting a therapist or someone to work with for these kind of interactions. If you're not very experienced in this kind of work, it's difficult to do
Yeah.
by yourself to hold that space. We say in counseling and therapy for someone to hold that space for you, that space which is an energy of complete acceptance and okayness and unconditional love, to hold that field so you can hold that for yourself as well. Um, Wise to get a therapist for this kind of work. How to love the inner child then. So we can imagine ourselves going back in time, the event, we have the memory. We can imagine ourselves being as we are now, the adult, um, and going and giving ourselves a big hug and telling them how much we love them, that they don't have to worry anymore, that they're okay, that whatever we think they need to hear, because obviously we know what they needed to hear because it was us.
Mm.
You know, it doesn't take a lot to connect with the inner child. Like when you can start to interact with this energy, it will tell you what it needs. We can tell them that we're here for them, that they're perfect how they are, and that we forgive them for anything they think they have done. Because that's a lot of, you know, guilt, for example. It's guilt that we have that we feel like we've done something bad when we're a child, and like we know rationally, like the rational mind knows, of course, how's the child going to know? It's just conditioned, brought up by its parents and whatnot. It's not the child's fault, but the child doesn't believe that. The child thinks, shit, this is me. You know, maybe your parents have like got divorced or something, but the child like can take that on and say, oh, bad thing has happened, and this is my fault. You know, it's heavy, heavy energy for
Mm.
a young child to take on. So here we can incorporate Hopopopono as well, communicate with them and use these. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Yeah. So you're saying that to the part of yourself that you've neglected, you know.
Mm.
Also, no fault of your own. Like you just you become conscious of these things when you become conscious, right? But you've been neglecting this child. So you say, like, look, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you for being here, for keeping me safe, because it did. Its reactions kept you safe when it
Mm.
needed to, and I love you. It's simple, but as Lamar once said, it's not that easy. Very simple, but it's not easy. So we shouldn't underestimate how powerful these healing techniques are, because when we start doing this balancing work, our actual, and I won't get into like how it interacts with like the universe or the field or whatever, our basically our world will shift. Things
Mm.
will happen when you start healing. You've probably noticed it with yourself, being like
Mhm.
when you start doing the healing work, people in your life change. Some people might completely drop out because they're just not resonating on the frequency you're currently vibing on. Do you know? Because the relationship you had with them before was very uh I try to avoid using the term egoic, but like it was relating to that energy that you were kind of holding before. But as you do this work, your energy field, you get lighter, you know, so you kind of your consciousness raises. And some people drop out your life. Some people say, you've changed. Why, you know, you're different how you were. Why don't you like doing this anymore? Because your patterns and habits will change as well with these things. As you kind of just don't like, oh, I don't eat 5 pints of Stella every night now. I'm good. And it's not even a conscious thing. You might not have that thought necessarily. You'll just be like, I don't want it.
Mm.
I'll have one or two. You know, I'm good with that. I'm okay because you're not suffering anymore.
Mm.
So it's a yeah, and I'll get into this in another presentation, but the persona that we took ourselves to be, it goes through a simultaneous death and rebirth, which is he's not comfortable, but it for sure is liberating,
Mm.
beautiful, and leads you to a place of peace. Okay. So this just is reiterating what I just said about the inner and the outer world. Once you change the inner world, the outer world changes as well. Who was that famous quote by Ian? Was it Gandhi? Like, if you want to change the world, change yourself or something?
Yeah,
Who said that? It's true anyway.
I
Whoever
don't
said
think
it.
it was Gandhi, but it was. I know the one you mean, and I can't
Yeah,
remember who it was, but yeah.
it's true. Anyway,
Mm,
you'll start getting a deeper connection with this when you start doing this work. You realize how much your inner world influences your outer world.
mm,
Right, it's just wrapping up this presentation then. Get a therapist if you need it. So I'm just gonna reinstate this that if you do decide to get a therapist and you want to work with people, it's best you do this work consistently. And actually, my mentor was the first person to really tell me this. I'd done like a lot of therapy before for my psychotherapy and counseling course I had to do, but he was the first one that said to me because I said, "Oh, what about doing like one session every couple of weeks and whatnot." He was like, "This kind of work, the energetic level of feeling that you're doing, best to do it once a week. Best to stay consistent with it if possible. Obviously, like you've got your own like budget and things and what you can afford to do, what you can't, uh, etc. But it's best to once you know you want to prioritize this stuff, prioritize it.
mm.
Don't you can half-ass it if you want, and also that's might be part of your journey. It might be the case of you've got a lot of like trauma stuff and you just want to kind of like dip your toe in and come back out, and that is cool as well. But if you kind of are like ready for this journey and you're like, yeah, this is the path, like consistency is very, very important. Um, and yeah, so of course you can use these techniques as my goal of like sharing these things with people is so people can understand the process and like heal
Mm.
themselves, help themselves and do this work without needing to be with a therapist. But yeah, like I said, yeah. And just a bit more about therapy, really, about online or offline, both are really, really fine. I've done both. Um, and yeah, like I won't get into the fact that well, you probably talk about this better than I could, Ian, about like distance Reiki and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah, yeah,
Still
yeah,
still very powerful, like
yeah.
certainly very powerful. And doing like counseling over this kind of medium,
Hmm.
very, very powerful.
Yeah,
Can even be better for some people because it puts a slight bit of, distance, a little bit of safety in there
yeah.
for them as well. But always go with what resonates with you guys. Like when you speak to a therapist, like if you kind of like, I don't really know, not really sure about this person, like speak to another, find someone who like resonates with you,
Mm,
because it's all energy. That's the most important thing. And yeah, but also be open to in-person therapy and online as well. They're both good. So yeah,
yeah.
if you want to work with me, I'm looking to take on maybe one or two more clients at the moment of recording this video. But if you're watching this at a later date, just email me anyway if you've got any questions, and I'll be more than happy to help. So yeah, that is the end of the presentation.
Excellent.
Thanks for watching.
Excellent. Thank you. That was really good. That was really good presentation. Really easy to follow again. Like the first one that you made. Very easy to follow. Very good explanations. Um, and like you said, it gives people the chance just to dip the toe into something if they feel the need to. Yeah. But yeah, well done. Well done on that. A lot of work gone into that, you can tell.
Bless you, man. Appreciate the space to share it.
Mm,
Um, hopefully get it out to a lot of people. So yeah, guys, if you watch this and you're like, wow, this has resonated with me, like please do share these videos.
mm,
We don't promote this stuff enough. We're quite bad. We normally just jump on here and chat about life and,
Mm,
deep conversations, but we don't promote this channel enough. But if this has resonated with you, and you've got someone in mind as you were watching it, you're like, oh, I think they would actually benefit from this. Just
mm,
drop them the link, and then if they click on it and watch it, and it resonates with them, like fantastic.
yeah.
If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Because I
Yeah.
understand this is not for. I mean, you could say everyone needs it, right? But not
Mm,
everyone's ready
yeah.
for it. But
Yeah.
if you are kind of ready and it resonates with you, obviously feel free to get in touch with me or uh, go on a directory, find a therapist to work with. Um, and yeah, and my hope and aim is to help educate people about psychology or soulology, as I'm terming it now. Do you know about
Mm,
how energy actually works and how healing works? And
yeah.
yeah, we can simplify it. It doesn't have to be super complicated because it's
Yeah.
not. Like
Yeah.
the truth is never complicated. It's very, very simple.
Mm.
Um, So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Like and subscribe,
See you
and
in the
we'll
next
see you in the
video.
next video.
Oh, bingo.
Cheers.